Good day everyone! Our group is excited to present our cultural mapping project on the Negrito groups of the Philippines. We hope you all learned something new today. Here's a map showing the distribution of Negrito groups across the Philippines. As you can see, they are spread throughout the islands, from Luzon to Mindanao. We now delve into the specific of some of these groups. As you can see on your screen, here's the map of the Philippines from Luzon, Visayas to Mindanao. And let's start with the Aita of Zambales. They primarily reside in the mountains of Zambales in Luzon. They speak the Magbukon Aita language and have a rich culture that includes traditional dances and music. One of their unique traits in their expertise in hunting and gathering, as well as their knowledge of herbal medicine. However, they face numerous challenges, including deforestation, loss of their ancestral land, and discrimination. Next is the Aita of Bataan. They remain close to forest resources, which sustain their way of life, and still spoken in some communities through Tagalog, is common due to the lowland interaction. Their traditional dances and oral storytelling remain central to community gathering. Their deep forest knowledge is key for survival and healing. Many are forced to work as laborer in lowland areas. The Aita of Bataan highlight the tension between tradition and modernization, while their skills in healing and hunting remain. Younger generation face pressure to adapt to lowland society. Recognition of their land rights and cultural identity is key to their survival as an indigenous people. Next is the Aita from Pampanga. Their lives were drastically changed by the 1991 eruption, and they use Mag-Indi language and Mag-Antsi Aita. Strong linguistic identity, though Kapampangan and Tagalog are widely spoken now. They keep traditional crafts and farming despite their relocation, and they have unique traits, including expertise in slash and burn farming, tool making, and resilience after natural disaster. Their adaptation after Mount Pinatubo is a testament to their endurance, and they faced challenges, including resettlements, poverty, and marginalization. Government resettlements program often lacked proper livelihood support. In summary, the Aita of Pampanga are one of the most visible examples of indigenous resilience. Displaced by Mount Pinatubo, they had to rebuild their lives in unfamiliar lowland areas. While this brought hardship, it also revealed their ability to adapt while preserving traditions, ensuring access to education and sustainable livelihoods remains their biggest needs. Next is the Aita in Tarlac. The Aita of Tarlac are caught between preserving tradition and integrating with mainstream society. Their weaving and farming practices reflect centuries of knowledge, but economic struggles push many to seek wage labor. Recognition of their ancestral domain, claims, and support for their crafts would help uplift their community.
Now, let's move on to Baluga of Southern Tagalog. The Baluga of Southern Luzon reflect the wider struggles of Negrito groups in the Philippines, while they maintain strong ties to the Sierra Madre Forest. Modernization, land grabbing, and development projects threaten their way of life. Their identity is often misunderstood, as Baluga is sometimes used pejoratively yet they proudly carry their heritage as part of the broader Eta family, supporting their ancestral land rights and preserving their cultural traditions are vital for their community's survival.
Now let's move on into Ati of Panay. The Ati of Panay represent one of the most well-known Negrito groups due to the Ati-Atihan festival. However, despite this cultural recognition, many Ati communities live in poverty. Securing ancestral lands and protecting their cultural rights remain urgent concerns. And now, let's go in the Ati of Negros. The Ati of Negros struggle against systemic inequality. Surrounded by large sugar estates, they often end up as low-paid farm workers. Strengthening their land rights and livelihood support is crucial for their upliftment. Then, the Ati of Guimaras. The Ati of Guimaras represents resilience in small numbers. While they are fewer compared to Panay and Negros, they continue to practice their traditions and cultural preservation programs are important to prevent their heritage from fading. Then, the Ati of Romblon. The Ati of Romblon are often overlooked compared to other Visayan indigenous groups. Their remote lifestyle helps preserve tradition, but they face marginalization in mainstream society. Recognition and support are needed to strengthen their identity. And the Ati of Palawan. So the Ati of Palawan reflect the mobility of Negrito groups. Migration allowed them to find new opportunities but also placed them in competition for land and resources. Their cultural survival depends on securing sustainable settlements. And then, let's go to the Ati of Northern Mindanao. The Ati of Northern Mindanao illustrate the diaspora of Visayan Negritos. Their migration is driven by survival, but it often weakens their cultural cohesion. Supporting their ancestral domain claims and preventing loss of language are essential to protect their heritage.
Now let's proceed to Dumagat of Sierra Madre. The Dumagat of Sierra Madre of Eastern Luzon are one of the most distinct Negrito group because of their close attachment to rivers and the sea. Unlike other upland Ita communities, many Dumagat rely heavily on fishing and seasonal farming, reflecting their adaptability to both land and water environments. However, the Sierra Madre, their ancestral home, is increasingly threatened by logging, mining, and dam projects, forcing many Dumagat to move to lowland settlements. Despite these challenges, they remain resilient, preserving their oral tradition, rituals, and strong spiritual connection to nature. Let's proceed to our next discussion, the Agta of Cagayan. The Agta of Cagayan are among the earliest inhabitants of the valley, with their way of life deeply tied to the forests and rivers. Unlike lowland farming communities, the Agta semi-nomadic tradition emphasizes mobility and adaptation to nature. However, as land pressures and development increase, their traditional livelihood is at risk. Despite hardship, the Agta continue to preserve their hunting traditions, rituals, and collective ways of life that highlight their unique cultural identity. Now, we are going to discuss the Agta of Northern Luzon. The Agta of Northern Luzon are represent of the most diverse and widespread Negrito groups. Compared to the Dumagat who live closer to coastal environments, many northern Agta remain uplands forest dwellers, relying heavily on hunting and foraging. Their mobility and adaptability have allowed them to survive for centuries in harsh conditions. Yet, modern pressures such as logging and displacement threatening not only their land but also the continuity of their cultural practices. Their resilience lies in their collective spirit, oral heritage, and strong connections to their ancestral lands and mountains and rivers.
That was the end of our presentation.